let's go on, because now we're going into the real thing. And the next thing I'm going to introduce is the I in music innovation. I love it because I like music innovation. There are eyes everywhere. And who could discuss best these essential roles of music and creativity, which is obviously at the very center of the innovation of the music industry. And there is also an I in her name. Michela Magas. She is innovation advisor to the European Commission and the G7 leaders, to start with. She's a member of the high-level roundtable of the President von der Leyen for the new European Bauhaus. Okay? And she's the chair of the Industry Commons Foundation. She was awarded in 2017 the European Woman Innovator Award of the Year, and in 2016 the Innovation Luminary Award of Creative Innovation. That's quite something, and I'm super happy. She's also an innovator herself because she founded and she knows heads as a CEO the MTF Lab, Music Tech Fest Lab, a global community platform of around 8,000 innovators like you, I guess, because you're here today. And it makes also creative innovators with scientific researchers. So I welcome, not on stage, unfortunately, but online, Michela Magas. Enjoy the talk. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's wonderful because many of our members are actually part of this conference, and I have seen some of the names pop up. And this community has been incredibly influential in policy, actually. We have been able to translate the work that these people have been doing both to the innovation recommendations for the European Commission and to President von der Leyen's high-level roundtable for the new European Bauhaus. So this new European Bauhaus initiative, which is actually placing culture and creativity at the center of policymaking. So, okay, I'm starting a bit heavy with policy, but actually what I want to talk to you about is how this happened, what are the sort of things that this community has been responsible for that have influenced people at such high level. So I will start my screen sharing now, so bear with me for 1 second. So as I mentioned, this community has been responsible for a great deal, and it's been around since 2012, so we are reaching our 10th anniversary. And talking about policymakers, I will actually rewind back to when we were in Berlin. We are a nomadic community. It started in London. It went all over the world with its events. And this is the moment when we were in Berlin. And that same moment was when we were identified by Barack Obama, who was asked to guest edit Wired magazine in the last month of his presidency and to choose future frontiers. And he ended up choosing, out of so many things, Music Tech Fest and our representative, Victoria Modesta. And Victoria was with us in Berlin. In Berlin, we had reached over 5,000 members. And my mission was to set up someone who could represent us, someone who could actually be the role model for everyone in the room. And it had to be a woman. I really wanted it to be a woman. I wanted to bust the preconceptions of what music industry is about, what technology is about, and had to be someone who was really courageous and brave and was not afraid to challenge preconceptions. So this is Victoria, and she's now a fellow of MIT. She's really well known she's been performing in media in a series on the American series, and also she closed the Paralympics in London. She opened the Paralympics in Rio. Really an impressive person. And when we were doing our experimentation with Victoria, and of course this was just fantastic people, and they were coordinated in Berlin. The thing that was created for her was not, the idea was not to make her look so-called normal, because we felt that nobody is normal. Everybody has special qualities. And so here is, for instance, an example where a leg from Ottobock was adapted to create smoke for the stage. So our members had created, there was a carbon fiber bodice, was fitted with sensors, and these sensors she was able to activate to actually launch the smoke that was coming out of the leg. And so it creates this image that's really a little bit like the old Marilyn Monroe image where the wind lifts the dress, but in this case, the wind is the dress. But another thing that was created in Berlin was we started to experiment with neurofeedback and brain-computer interfaces. And in this case, it was allowing Victoria to train to control the colors on her outfit. And what was really incredible was that she trained for the week, and by the end of the week, she was able to express herself on the stage from her brain, activating basically both singing and dancing and activating from her brain the lights on her outfit. So another mode of expression. So we took this further. So you will be aware of Slush in Helsinki, one of the largest conventions of startups and investors. And here we put Rike Hanninen, a blind singer, very proud to be a blind singer, at the center of our labs with, again, really amazing people. The person next to her is a living cyborg, an incredible innovator called Yasmin Izdrake. She had 3 implants, electronic implants at that point. So she was able to communicate with Rika via those. And what we wanted to do there was, you will hear her sing in the background now. She's singing the songs from the Kalevala. What we wanted to do was to ask Rika, okay, what do you need when you perform? She's a vocal coach. She's from the Sibelius Institute. She's really accomplished. But she said, when I sing for the audiences, actually, I don't know how they feel because I can't see them. So the next thing we did was we actually asked members of the audience who wanted to be fitted with pulse sensors so that could actually communicate to Rika their heartbeat. And we thought that at Slush, everybody is super busy talking to investors, and this is the opening night. The reason why we were there at the opening night, we were launching Slush with the results of our labs, and we had run a week of labs after I had opened the music track for Slush. And so we thought, okay, nobody is going to be interested in this experimentation. But we had this rock and roll moment. Everybody rushed for the stage and said, I want to be part of this. And everybody had their mobile phones out and everybody was taking photos. It was really quite incredible. So we established this communication between Rika and the audience. So she was able to respond with her singing. And so here you see Yasmin activating with her chip implants some sensors and communicating to her. But then we took this neurofeedback thing forward and we thought, okay, right, the neurofeedback team decided to adapt a system that's used for clinical trials for people who have anxiety attacks. And what it does, it illustrates for you, if you wear the neurofeedback sensor, the sensor will sense when your attack is about to start. And it will indicate it to you, and then you can start to train to control it. But instead, it was adapted to play the musical scale. And what happened was that all the people in the lab started to train with this, and it took them around 2 hours to be able to go up and down the musical scale, which is actually quite remarkable if you think about it, how long it takes you to train to play a musical instrument. So our brain is really plastic. But then Rika put the neurofeedback sensor on and she was able to play instantly without training. And all of a sudden, it occurred to us that someone who was defined as disabled in the old mechanical era, where you had to see the buttons you have to press, suddenly in the era of brain-computer interfaces, she was far more talented than the rest of us. And of course, this always ends up making us question what is ability and what is the... how do we define people? And of course, people tend to be also defined by the tools we give them. And so here in the background, you will see the pattern that is showing Rika's brain activity in real time. And it was really, really impressive and convincing. So inclusion is a massive thing. And so bridging people with ability or disability, people with a completely different backgrounds, both in terms of knowledge and in terms of culture. This is us on tour in New Zealand in 2014. And this is us, for example, with the London Symphony Orchestra in the Barbican. So this is basically us performing between the age of 3 and 83. Everybody goes on stage. And the idea of going on stage, this is our youngest DJ in Stockholm. The idea of everybody going on stage is super important. The way that we communicate to audiences, the way that we express ourselves actually communicates our ideas in a way that people can experience. It's not a 3-minute pitch. It's not a pre-cooked thing. It's an experience. And the technologies that we are creating through Music Tech Fest really need to be part of a human experience. So we have actually changed that paradigm about what it means to pitch and what it means to present. And it also builds tremendous confidence for these kids. So for instance, here is an image that illustrates, how a kid can learn electronics through making a musical instrument. And you saw earlier the experience that that girl had on stage at the Barbican. I was lucky to be sent by the European Commission to negotiate a deal between the Ministry for Research and Innovation in Brazil and the European industry. And it occurred to me while I was there that in a country that has 10% illiteracy, so 200 million people and 10% illiteracy is huge. And you have in a city of 22 million people like Sao Paulo, huge amount of children in vulnerability areas. What they do is through this organization called Fábrica de Cultura, they teach them musical instruments. They teach them to play music because that lifts them in terms of culture. And I said, well, how about we do one smartboard per child, and we give each one of these kids a smartboard to make a musical instruments, and then you turn it into a generation of engineers. So this is the sort of incredible impact that this field can have. And this was recognized when we were on tour in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So this was MTF Boston in 2014 by some absolutely amazing luminaries in academia. So people from MIT, Harvard, from Oxford. This was run by Nancy Baim. She's an absolute star researchers in fans and online communities from Microsoft Research. And they wrote this manifesto for us, which was basically saying that what we're doing unites people from all kinds of areas of expertise. So music is our social glue. And of course, this prompted me to say, okay, right, what we need to do is do something that is a series of mechanisms that can enable this community to actually have something more solid, a series of methodologies. And these methodologies really, really influenced the innovation agenda at the European Commission. So we applied for funding for a series of pilots, and we thought we were going to get a couple of cool things out of it. This is, we're talking back in 2014, 2015, so early days. You're probably more familiar with these kinds of things now, because of course, since then, it was noticed as a field that really enables innovation. So there's a lot more actions that are being funded. And of course, now the creative industries are being funded. But it was through these kinds of proofs. If you see here, for instance, we managed to reduce from seeding idea to the starting of patenting process just to 4 months. So basically, we demonstrated that some of these methods and this incredible community can really speed up the track to innovation. And I showed you lots of women earlier, and of course we are amazing sort of in terms of having various genders present. Here's a few guys who had a huge success following incubation with us. For instance, MIT Innovators Under 35 or 30 Under 30 entrepreneurs at Forbes in Israel. So the diversity of this community is paramount. These are some of our participants in Stockholm. Stockholm was huge. It was over 800 people. Over 90 of them were part of this high-level lab that was in a decommissioned nuclear reactor. And I will just do a couple of seconds of the guy on the bottom left, who is absolutely extraordinary. He's called Tim Palm, and his artist name is DJ Arthro.
DJ Arthro is my artist name, and I do like electronic dance music. I built my own spaceship, I call it, and control like music and video and light at the same time.
I run an organization called Instruments. We're helping DJ Arthro because currently his workarounds restrict him in the way that he has to use his nose to start loops and stop loops. It doesn't leave him free to then play the instruments.
So 2 days after they built this extra bits of tech for DJ Arthur to be able to perform, he created new compositions, which then were featured on BBC Worldwide. And then they got an incubation award from KTH Innovation, Royal Institute of Technology, to develop this further. And then they were featured, his music was featured. And this is not because of the tech innovation, just because of the quality of the music, was featured by Tom Robinson on BBC Six Music. He toured in Korea and in London to sell out gigs. And then the following year at the Reeperbahn Festival, they got the International Sound Award. So we're super, super proud of Tim and this team who were absolutely extraordinary. So what they were able to enable, because actually now, and this is DJ Arthur on the cover of a magazine in Sweden. He runs his own production company, and he actually creates productions and as well as his own albums and tracks. This is one example of what is possible to do with just a bit of innovation and ingenuity and from these brilliant people. I mentioned that we are really big on gender equity, and so basically when we were running in Stockholm, I actually decided to put women in charge of all technology areas. And here you see Imogen Heap in charge of blockchain, and then Robin, and then people like Kelly Snook, who invented the Memu gloves, and LJ Rich from BBC Click, for example. And out of 4 gender categories that people could choose, 53% declared themselves as female. And this is in a hands-on technology prototyping platform. So we were very proud of that. And one of the ways that our community is inspired is, for instance, here you see Imogen Heap sending her voice to the moon via the Dwingeloo radio telescope in the north of Holland. And this is for real. We were sending, this was facilitated by an artist called Martin Nicole Regina. She actually used to be quite a well-known pop star a long, long time ago in Germany. Basically, Imogen was recording her voice. It was being sent through the telescope, bounced off the surface of the moon, literally, and returned back to her, very slightly distorted. And 83 people in the lab sent their voices to the moon. And just this experience enables people to lift themselves into a completely different dimension in terms of thinking. So here, for instance, Peter Weibel asked us to occupy ZKM, Center for Art and Media in Karlsruhe, for a weekend. And our people were connecting their brain to NASA data and to planetary rotations. And so this is one example. And here I would really like you to experience just a couple of minutes of what it was like at the Frankfurt Musikmesse.
The one thing that everybody has in common here is that they're all essentially geniuses. So the standard is extraordinarily high.
Best thing about this MTF is being given the opportunity to showcase our community to other music industry people who might never know what we get up to.
Well, this is my first time at an MTF event. I've only been here for a couple hours, but just in those couple hours, I've seen more creativity than I've seen in my 3 days at the larger conference.
When you take something like Music Tech Fest, you're putting a whole bunch of people with that same kind of energy together, so it's natural innovation.
Innovation is a key, and not only something you have to do, but something that you can actually integrate in whatever industry you are in.
You don't know who you're going to meet, you don't know each other, but there is this opportunity to collide and smash and become something new.
MTF community is the most fun hackathon community.
It's a true laboratory. You see people soldering, you see people hacking.
Vocal AI is about vocal performance. And how do we use artificial intelligence in performance?
I loved seeing how all of these incredibly different people with incredibly different skill sets managed to get together and collect all of their expertise into a bunch of projects and make them work together in one.
we are the ones responsible for the stories that sit around the things that are made.
Love the community. I'm addicted. I'm in love. It's a romance.
It's a romance. Basically, this is us occupying one of the biggest unicorns in Europe, a company called Infobip on their campus with Mimu gloves and with people who are selected from 60 of their global offices to do innovation with us. Here's us occupying the AI Impact Lab inside Örebro University and doing dance AI together with industrial robotics. And here's us, for instance, last year during the biggest outburst of the pandemic in Portugal, with under the watchful eye of the immunologists, with all the masks and distances and everything else, tackling the idea of another green world. And for instance, this is an example of AI, neural net generated stuff that was generated last year. And here you see Sofia Crespo and Felican McCormick, who are actually Berlin-based. They are Argentinian and Norwegian, respectively, but Berlin-based. Again, with us this year, because we were invited back to actually tackle with music and with creativity this idea of environmental the challenges. And this year, the topic was just ocean, the ocean justice, or ocean as an instrument as well. In this case, for instance, oceans being literally used as an instrument. And then this guy you see on the right is a very famous DJ, Moulinex, probably the most famous Portuguese DJ and producer. And here he is then working with the material that has been collected with Slow J, who's this Portuguese rapper. And we had 50 people in the room from 24 countries this year, and we had 8 global satellites from Toronto, Chicago, Mexico City, Rio, and 4 European cities. So altogether 26 countries represented. So it's a global movement and a global lab, and it's absolutely phenomenal in this sense. And what really comes across is the people. The most important thing is really the people who are such brilliant minds, and they can inspire each other. They can actually build things together. So what we always say whenever we are asked, how does this happen? We say, well, we don't predict the future, we invent it. So let me boot out from the presentation for a second. And I just want to say again that I'm super grateful to this community, and actually, as I say, a lot of them are here in this conference today, for the inspiration they have provided to the... Sorry, I can hear something. Yeah, so basically, I'm really grateful to the community here at this conference because the inspiration and the ingenuity that they have provided has really inspired some really major actions. And you probably are aware that now the creative industries are actually at the center of policy, and the sort of budgets that have been allocated from the European Commission are something completely different now. They are a scale of magnitude larger than they were when we first started.
Okay, thank you very much, Michela. This was wonderful in terms of innovation. I think it was a great call also in terms of change. I don't know if you can see me or hear me. Can you make
Yes, I can.
You
yes.
can? Okay, this is wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. It is so inspiring to see so many things which are going into the direction of connectivity, inclusivity, innovation and change, and I think it was the perfect keynote to start these days. So Michela, thank you so much. I'm so sorry I cannot take any questions for you now, because we have to move on for the next one. But thank you so much for having been with us, even through the cloud. Thank you and bye.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.